Well, hello again, everyone. It's the Conservative Pelican here. I'm trying to stick to at least one video a month, and boy, looking at the calendar, days are flying right on by, aren't they? Almost March now. The topic of this video is going to be entitled "Is CPAC, excuse me, is attending the CPAC conference worth it?" Now, what is CPAC? CPAC stands for the Conservative Political Action Conference. Should you attend the conference? Is it worth spending all the money? A lot of money to go. Let me answer that by saying, if you've never been to CPAC, yes, you need to go. You need to attend at least one time in your life. However, if you have attended CPAC and you last attended, say, 2013, 2003, 1993, if it's been a while since you've attended CPAC and you want to go again, I would advise you to not attend CPAC. Basically, I want to get into the gist of first of all, CPAC cost, it's $300 is the admission fee. If you are a college student or if you are a military veteran, you only pay $70. So that's another really good opportunity. You can also be a volunteer and get in for free, but of course, if you want to if you have a breakout session, let's say it's a breakout session on the Cook Partisan Index, you really want to go, and you're a volunteer, there's probably no guarantee you're going to be able to go to the breakout sessions that you want to go to. That's why I always say it's probably best to attend as a guest. Either pay your $300, or if you're a college student or a military veteran, well, you pay $70, and that's really awesome. It's a 4-day conference. It's usually held between the middle of February and the middle of March, somewhere in there. And it's always in Washington, D.C., which another thing I'll talk about is the hotels. Hotels in Washington, D.C. are super, super expensive, okay? If you want the cheapest hotel, is usually going to run you just about $100, and most hotels, okay, here's the thing: if you're going to be staying on site, which is the most convenient thing to do, is your hotels are going to run you right about $250 right about $250 a night, okay? And then and if you stay on site, you do not have to pay for parking. However, if you stay off site at the $100 the $100 hotel, like in Oxon Hill, which is like probably about a 3 or 4 mile drive from the National Harbor Center, which is where CPAC usually is, you're gonna have to pay to park, and paying to park is very high. Okay, you're looking at between $18 to $26 a day, depending on what lot you pick, depending on what time of day, depending on if the parking garage attendant is a conservative or a liberal or not. Okay, that last one is false information there, but still, parking is very expensive. Okay, back to the hotels thing. You will find, if you stay in Waldorf area, which is about a 20 to 30 minute car ride, you are going to have to pay to park every day, okay? But your hotels, you can get a really decent hotel for right around $65, $75 a night. And what I mean by decent hotel is usually Country Inn Suites, La Quinta Inn, somewhere right around those types of hotels. Let's see. Another thing we'll talk about is obviously mass transit versus traffic. What I did last year was I stayed at the Red Roof Inn, paid only like 70, I think with tax about $80 a night. This year you're going to pay about 20 to 25 more bucks a night. I just looked it up recently and it's a lot more expensive. Um, and if you want to save on hotels and you do not want to shell out $100 for just for parking for the conference, um, the best thing to do is take the city bus. And there's a city bus line run from Oxon Hill right down to the National Harbor. When you get off at National Harbor, you're still going to have to walk probably about a mile to three-quarters of a mile too. So just bear that in mind. If you're I'm 30 years old. If you're 60, 70 years old, you're probably going to want to stay on site right at the National Harbor. Just a word of advice there to my elderly viewers. Um, Another thing we'll talk about is food and restaurants. $300 fee for CPAC will only get you into the conference. It does not pay for food or any of the meals. I think they have a big gala dinner every year, like that Friday night of the conference. The conferences goes from Wednesday to Saturday, and usually Friday night they'll have a big gala with the big speaker. I think it's called the Reagan dinner or something like that. They usually charge an extra $500 at least for that. So if you're like me and you don't have that kind of dough just to pay for dinner, um, there are a lot of restaurants right there at the National Harbor. If you've never been to the National Harbor, it's basically a complex of stores and restaurants. It's an open air lifestyle center kind of thing. Um, and you'll find the restaurants, a lot of them are pretty overpriced. You're going to be paying, I would expect to budget meals at least $15 to $20. However, there is a Chipotle there. There's also a burger place, and you can get by about $10 to $15 a meal. But just bear that in mind that there are no McDonald's or Taco Bell in the National Harbor. It's all high dollar, upscale cuisine that is there. Um, Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about the conference itself and from personal experiences that I've had. I first attended the conference in 2013. I had a wonderful time. And back then, gosh, I got in for like $150 for the whole conference. It's a 4-day conference this year. Well, yeah, this year in 2017. 4 years ago, it was a 3-day conference. But I feel that when you look at 2013 versus when I went last year in 2016, there was a huge difference in the conference. In 2013, basically the conference started like 8 o'clock in the morning, and pretty much every Thursday and Friday they had activities all day, all afternoon, until about 8 or 9 o'clock, which is a pretty cool thing, especially if you stay off site and you don't like driving in the DC traffic. That's a great thing. But however, in 2016, or actually, I think they started changing the schedule and shrinking things a little bit in 2015 when the now current chairman Matt Schlapp was elected to the it's called the ACU. I call him the CPAC chair, whatever you want to call him. Matt Schlapp was elected in 2015, and unfortunately, he has really changed the conference, and he's gone to more of a less is more strategy. In other words, you're going to find the conference is going to go from about 9 in the morning until about 4. Okay, And then you're going to have breakout sessions from 4 to 6. In 2013, what they did is you had the general session, okay, which is what you see on C-SPAN and all the YouTube videos. In 2013, you had general session from 8 in the morning all the way pretty much 6 o'clock at night, and you had in those 10 hours, there were like 4 other things to do. I mean, there were breakout sessions up the wazoo. It was great. And they had a movie room you go to watch all kind of movies about conservatives. There's one that like Mike Huckabee did about the rights of the unborn, pro-life movement. There's one that Newt Gingrich did, a Reagan biography. Unfortunately, when I went in 2016, they took all that away. And now, basically, what you have is you have 2 options now. You can do an activist boot camp, or you go general session. They pretty much gutted all the breakout sessions from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you pretty much go to general session or go to activist boot camp, and that's pretty much it during that period of time. Also, the breakout sessions, I've noticed that they've gone away. In 2013, you actually had members of Congress do their own breakout session. Basically, they would go up there, they would give a little stump speech about 10-15 minutes, and then the rest of the breakout session, like a good 30 minutes, was just Q&A with the people like you and me, people that attend the conferences and shell out the big money. They also did away with that in 2016 with that model of the CPAC conference. Let's see. Another thing they did that has changed for the worse is the bookstore. Okay, when I went in 2013, they had like probably a good third to close to half of the exhibition space was a bookstore. Okay, you go there. I tell you what, pretty much any book about conservatives and Republicans they had. I bought a book. I think it was about what was it? About Karl Rove and Mitt Romney versus the Tea Party thing. They also had authors that did book signings too. But now what they did in 2016 was they moved the bookstore, and basically what they did was now you have you ever been to a shopping mall and you know these kiosks they have right in the main walkway there as you go, like Pearson Pagoda, or they'll have pretzel time, or they'll have a frozen yogurt stand. Now, instead of having shelf after shelf and a copious amount of rows and space in the exhibition hall of books, now they just have like 2 or 3 little piddly little bookshelves now. And let's see, exhibition hall. And when I say the exhibition hall, okay, you have conservative groups from all over the country, different organizations will set up booths, excuse me, in the actual convention, the exhibit hall where you walk around, you see all the different groups. I think from 2013 to 2016, I noticed a huge drop in the number of exhibitors that were participating for some reason. Let's see. I think I covered pretty much. Oh, another thing is when I went to the conference in 2013, security was a lot. There was a lot more freedom to move from space to space in the National Harbor Center, and you were able to go to a breakout session, and let's say your breakout session started at 1, okay, and let's say you got there, say 12 12:30, 12:45, somewhere in there, because you want to get a good seat, you want to beat the lines, the crowds. You were able to sit down and wait for the breakout session to begin. But in 2016, what they did was they made you line up, and they only started putting people in the rooms like 5 minutes till. So you had a rush of people going in at the last minute, and that's always kind of distracting, and you can never start these breakout sessions on time, and then the speaker has to rush through everything they want to say. It's just not cool. Another thing too, I noticed, I talk about security. I remember the very first day I was at CPAC in 2013. Okay, I came in. The conference started right about 8:30 in the morning. Okay, and and I got there really early because I was staying at a hotel near Baltimore. So I got up like 4 in the morning and was on the road by 4:30, so I could beat the hellacious DC traffic. Right. Anyway, I got to the conference center around 5:30 ish, and they started opening the actual general session room, which is, I think they call it the Potomac Ballroom. They opened it up at 7 a.m. for and the conference didn't start till 8:30. So I was able to go in there, get a good seat. They gave out complimentary copies of the Washington Times, which I don't think they did last year. Another BS cost cutting move by Mr. Schlapp. Okay. The biggest bone that I have to pick with the recent history of CPAC is the actual agenda. I've talked about it a little bit as far as the schedule of the agenda, but now I'm going to talk about how the agenda is released. Okay, when I attended the conference in 2013, the agenda was posted a good 3 weeks to even maybe a month ahead of when the CPAC started. Now, I noticed last year, they wait till the last minute to post the agenda. Last year, they did not have the agenda posted until I got there on Wednesday afternoon. And I got the agenda and everything, and they had to give it to me in 2 parts because they had made an error when they wrote the agenda. I mean, it's ridiculous. Let me see here. I mean, I got it in 2 parts here. Look, this and this. I mean, you flip through this and then you flip through that, and how in the hell are you supposed to stay organized at this conference? And know what you're going to do. You only have a short period of time to really, know what the hell you're going to do at this conference. Okay? And this year they're barking up the wrong tree again. They're putting the agenda out. Well, it's 2 days before the conference begins, and they're not putting the agenda out. It's ridiculous. Excuse me. And no, I'm not going to CPAC this year. And I decided to actually not attend the conference until a few things happen. One is a new chairman comes in. Matt Schlapp he's taken the conference and he doubled the price, and he shrunk he doubled the price, and he took the number of events of the convention and slashed it in half. Okay, doubled the price, slashed the event in half. Not good. So that needs to happen, or the price needs to come down, because if you're going to do less events, you need to cut the price. That's just basic economics 101. Another thing I would like to see them do is move the convention out of DC. Now, when Al Cardenas was chair back 2010, 2012, they had CPAC in DC, okay, the main event, like the 4-day event. But usually once every quarter in the calendar, they would go to a different city and have a weekend event. They would go to Orlando, they'd go to Denver, Chicago, St. Louis. That way, conservatives that, conservatives don't always have to go to D.C. and pay $300 a night for a hotel room just to go to a conservative conference, okay? Because if you look at the Washington D.C. metro area, uh, being a Republican or being a conservative is an endangered species. Uh, and when you look at the talk radio station there in Washington D.C., which is WMAL, 105.9 FM, or I believe 6:30 AM. If you look at their ratings, okay, they're usually, I'll say there are about 30 stations in the DC, 30 radio stations, okay. They usually place about 15 out of 30, so they're just kind of barely making money treading water. So in other words, people just aren't engaged. They're not engaged conservatives. So why would year after year you have the conference in D.C. okay, where there really aren't that many engaged conservatives? And and please don't dare play this card about, well, the congressmen and senators need the conference to be very, very accessible to them, okay? I mean, give me a break. They make what, $175,000 a year. Okay, you can't tell me they can't spend a couple $100 on a plane ticket and go to Atlanta, go to Dallas, Salt Lake City, Tampa, and these other cities that are way more conservative than DC. It's ridiculous. Okay. Okay. I need to chill. Okay. There are other political conferences that I will be looking at attending. Right now in 2017, I'm just trying to get my life on track, trying to get my finances in order, going back to school, taking some computer IT classes. But starting in 2018, 2019, when things will be a lot better for me financially, looking forward to attending the AFP conference. They usually charge like $100 for that, and that's usually 2-day conference. They have just as much as CPAC does, if not more, as far as events. Another good one's Faith and Freedom Coalition and the Value Voters Summit. Those last two I said are in DC. The AFP conference, they move around a lot. There's also Red State and the Southern Republican Leadership Council. Those two also move around, but those two are getting pretty expensive too. I think Red State last year was $250, and the SRLC was like over $300 to $400 just to attend the conference. I mean, that doesn't include your hotel, your airfare, your rental car, stuff like that. There are also other ways to be politically involved. You don't always have to, spend $1,000 to go to CPAC every year. You can be involved with your state political party. I'm doing a project right now on my blog of what states have good political party systems where average Joes like me and a lot of you watching this video can actually get involved, and it doesn't take money all the time. Because here in Florida, it takes money all the time to get involved in politics. But if you go to North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, a little bit, you can actually get involved in politics, and it won't cost you an arm and a leg. Okay. Another thing too is, does your state have conservative think tank groups? In Florida, we really don't have so much of that. Everybody down here, they just want to go to the beach or go to Disney World and have a nice day. In North Carolina, they got the Civitas Institute and the John Locke Foundation. And those are two really good organizations that they always have at least one event a month. And a lot of times they'll go around the state. So if you don't live in Raleigh, if you don't live in the Greensboro area, if you live out Asheville or Wilmington or New Bern, a lot of times they'll come there at least once a year to do an event. So that's always something good to look at too. Anyway, so in conclusion, should you attend CPAC? If you've never been, the answer is yes. If you have $1,000 to shell out, the answer is yes. If you last attended when Al Cardinius was chairman, or if you haven't attended in at least 5-10 years, you should not attend CPAC because the conference has gotten very watered down and it's a lot more expensive to go. And there's a lot less things to do. So let's see. Have I answered? Yeah. Yes. I do believe I've covered everything I need to cover. I am the conservative pelican. See ya.